The first thing I noticed was not the private jet. It was the silence. A moment earlier, the private terminal had been alive with rolling luggage, low conversations, and camera shutters from reporters covering the charity gala. Then the aircraft door began to open, and everything seemed to pause. Across the tarmac, my ex-wife stood beside a man in a silver suit. She had been smiling at something he said. That smile vanished before the stairs touched the ground. Someone near her whispered, "Who is arriving?" The airport manager straightened his jacket. Two security officers stepped forward. I appeared in the doorway. The evening sun framed my shoulders. I looked directly at her. The color drained from her face. "Elias?" She said my name like she had seen a ghost. 3 years earlier, she had looked me in the eyes and said, "You will die poor." Standing above her on those aircraft stairs, I finally understood something. Poverty had never been my greatest danger. Letting someone else decide the limits of my future had been. 3 years earlier, rain leaked through the ceiling of our apartment and fell into a blue plastic bowl beside the refrigerator. Plink, plink, plink. Serea hated that sound. She stood in the kitchen wearing a cream blouse and black skirt, still dressed from work, watching each drop as if it were a personal insult. "The landlord promised to fix it," I said. "He promised last month." "I called again today." "You always call again." Her voice was calm, but disappointment had begun replacing anger in our home. Anger still believed something might change. Disappointment expected nothing. I closed my laptop. On the screen was a map of shipping routes, weather patterns, warehouse delays, and fuel shortages. It belonged to Axiora, the logistics platform I had been building every night for almost 2 years. During the day, I worked as a systems analyst at HarborLink Logistics. The salary paid our rent, groceries, and most bills. Axiora consumed what remained. Serea opened the refrigerator. "We have eggs, milk, and leftover pasta. I can make something." "We had pasta yesterday." "I got paid today. I can go shopping." She shut the refrigerator and looked at me. "I do not want to keep calculating every meal." "We are not struggling that badly." "That is what you always say." I stood. "Something happened at work?" She removed her earrings and placed them on the counter. "Aviel bought a house." "That is good. It has 4 bedrooms, a pool, and a view of the river." Her best friend had married Corvin Vale, a wealthy property developer. Since their wedding, every dinner with them had become an unspoken comparison between 2 lives. I walked toward Serea. "We will have our own place." "When?" I hesitated. That was the question I could never answer. Then I remembered the email I had received that afternoon. "In 30 days. She frowned. "What happens in 30 days? Oren secured a presentation for Axiora. 3 investment firms will attend. Her expression changed. "Real investors?" "Yes." "And the software is ready?" "Not yet." The hope in her eyes flickered. "But it will be," I said. "I have 30 days." She studied my face. For a brief moment, I saw the woman who once believed every dream I described. "I hope you are right, Elias." So did I. The next morning, I arrived at HarborLink before sunrise. Freight trucks moved through the fog beyond my office window. Every delayed shipment, missed delivery, and warehouse bottleneck taught me something. I had spent years watching companies lose money because they reacted too late. Axiora was designed to warn them first. Oren Maddox entered, carrying 2 coffees. At 58, Oren had spent nearly 4 decades in logistics. He trusted numbers, not enthusiasm. "You slept?" he asked. "Enough." "Liar." He placed 1 coffee beside me. "Show me the new prediction engine." We entered the conference room. I connected my laptop to the wall, display, and loaded a simulation. Using real shipping data, I added a port closure. Axiora rerouted the affected cargo. I added severe weather. It adjusted again. Then I entered a fuel shortage across 3 states. The platform recalculated costs, delivery times, and alternate carriers in seconds. Oren remained silent until the simulation ended. "How accurate?" he asked. 93%. "Can you reach 95? "I think so." "You have 29 days." "I know." He kept staring at the screen. "Elias, if this platform performs at the presentation the way it performed just now, every major logistics company in the country will eventually want it." I laughed nervously. "Let us survive 1 meeting first." "I am serious." "So am I." He turned toward me. Then promise me something. What? Do not sell it because you are frightened. Desperate founders accept the first number that lets them breathe. I am not building it to sell quickly. Good. He tapped the Axiora logo on the screen. Because this is not an ordinary idea. His words stayed with me all day. That evening, Serea and I attended dinner at her parents' home. I arrived 40 minutes late. Her father opened the door and smiled politely. Long day? The usual. Everyone had already begun eating. Serea did not look at me when I sat beside her. I am sorry, I said. Her father waved a hand. Work happens. Serea quietly added, It always does. Halfway through dinner, her mother asked about Axiora. The presentation is in 29 days, I said. That sounds exciting. It is. Serea took a sip of water. I just hope this one actually leads somewhere. The table fell silent. She looked down immediately, but the damage was done. On the drive home, I asked, Why did you say that? Because I am scared. Of what? Of spending 10 more years waiting for our life to begin. Our life already began. No, Elias, we survive. That is not the same thing. I reached for her hand. She allowed me to hold it, but her fingers stayed still inside mine. The countdown took over my life. 26 days. 23. 21. I woke before 5, worked at Harbor Link until evening, then coded until midnight. Serea stopped asking when I would come to bed. Some nights, I found her asleep with her phone still in her hand. Other nights, she was not home yet. She said the agency had demanding clients. One of them was Cassian Rowe, a commercial developer with expensive watches, effortless confidence, and a habit of speaking as though every room belonged to him. I met him at a rooftop reception hosted by Serea's firm. What do you do? He asked. Logistics systems. Good money? Serea said, He is building his own platform. Cassian raised an eyebrow. Funded? Not yet. Then you are building a presentation. Serea laughed. It was small. Almost polite, but she laughed. On the way home, I asked why. It was a joke. At my expense. You are being sensitive. You could have defended me. Defended you from what? Reality? She turned toward the window before I could answer. After that night, Cassian appeared often in her conversations. Cassian had invited the agency team to a private dinner. Cassian knew investors. Cassian had recommended her for a promotion. When I suggested she invite him to the Axiora presentation, she said, He only invests in proven founders. The message was clear. I was not one. With 14 days remaining, Axiora reached 95.8% accuracy. Oren watched the final simulation twice. I have never seen software predict disruptions like this, he said. You think it is ready? I think someone will try very hard to buy it. I smiled. This company was supposed to prove Serea never wasted her faith in me. Oren's expression changed. Make sure you are not building your future. For someone who has already walked away from it. I wanted to argue. Instead, I drove home early with white lilies and takeout from Serea's favorite restaurant. The apartment was dark. Half the bedroom closet was empty. 2 suitcases were gone. A handwritten note lay on the bed. I read it twice. Elias, I need space. I cannot keep living on promises. Please do not call tonight. Serea. She returned 3 days later. I was sitting at the kitchen table beside the untouched flowers. Are you leaving me? I asked. She placed her keys down. I do not know. Is there someone else? Her silence answered first. Cassian? Nothing physical happened. That is not what I asked. He listens to me. I listen. You hear criticism? He hears what I want. And what do you want? A life that does not feel like an apology. I stood slowly. You think I am the reason you are unhappy? I think you keep asking me to believe in a future that may never arrive. The presentation is in 11 days. She laughed once without humor. There is always another deadline. This one is real. So were the others. I stared at her. Do you believe in me at all? Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice remained steady. No. That answer hurt more than the affair. She lifted her handbag. You are intelligent, Elias. You are kind. But intelligence without results is just potential. And what do you think happens to me? She opened the door. If you keep living like this, you will die poor. Then she left. The apartment became painfully quiet. For several minutes, I remained beside the open door, listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway. I wanted to follow her. I wanted to demand that she take back the sentence, explain Cassian, and remember the version of us that had survived cheap furniture, broken appliances, and winters when we shared one coat because mine had been stolen. Instead, I closed the door. On the kitchen table sat the folder containing our household budget. Serea had organized every receipt by month. Her handwriting filled the margins: rent, insurance, groceries, repairs. Beside those numbers, I saw another list: places she wanted to visit: Lisbon, Cape Town, Kyoto, a small beach town whose name I could barely pronounce. I had promised we would see them all. Not someday, I had said. Soon. I finally understood how often I had used that word without giving it a date. That did not excuse what she had done. It did not make Cassian innocent or her cruelty acceptable. But heartbreak did not erase every truth simply because the truth hurt. I opened Axiora. 11 days remained on the countdown. For one reckless moment, I considered deleting everything. The platform had cost me sleep, savings, birthdays, dinners, and perhaps my marriage. The cursor hovered over the project folder. Then I remembered Oren's voice. This is not an ordinary idea. I moved the cursor away. Serea had stopped believing in me. I did not have to join her. I washed the dinner plates, threw away the lilies, and placed our wedding photograph face down. It was not an act of revenge. I simply could not keep watching our happiest day while the worst night of my life unfolded around it. Then thunder rolled above the building and rain began. The ceiling leaked again that night. Plink, plink, plink. I sat on the bedroom floor holding our wedding photograph, staring at two younger people who believed love could survive anything. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. I nearly ignored it. Hello? A woman answered. Mr. Carter, my name is Victoria Hale. We have been reviewing Axiora privately for several weeks. I stood. How did you get this number? Oren Maddox. I looked toward my laptop. What do you want? To move your presentation forward. My heart began beating faster. When? Tomorrow morning. That is impossible. So is what your software appears capable of doing. She paused. Be at Northbridge Capital at 9. And Mr. Carter? Yes? Do not arrive prepared to ask for a chance. Her voice sharpened. Arrive prepared to negotiate. At 8:57 the next morning, I stood outside Northbridge Capital wearing the only suit I owned. The navy jacket had been altered twice. One sleeve still pulled slightly when I moved, and the shoes had been polished, so often that the leather had begun to crack near the toes. I noticed every imperfection while waiting for the elevator. Then I remembered Victoria Hale's final words. Do not arrive prepared to ask for a chance. Arrive prepared to negotiate. Northbridge occupied the 42nd floor of a glass tower overlooking the river. The reception area was silent, elegant, and large enough to fit our entire apartment. A receptionist led me into a conference room where Victoria sat beside 3 men in dark suits. No one offered small talk. One of them opened a folder. Mr. Carter, we reviewed the testing data Oren Maddox sent us. I looked at Victoria. She gave nothing away. The man continued. We believe Axiora could reduce commercial shipping losses by 20 to 30% in certain sectors. That is a conservative estimate, I said. Another investor leaned back. You are confident. I am prepared. Victoria's mouth moved slightly, almost a smile. For the next 90 minutes, they attacked every weakness in the platform. Security, scaling, liability, competition, data ownership. Every question felt designed to expose whether I had built a real company or merely an impressive demonstration. I answered what I knew. When I did not know, I said so. I did not exaggerate. I did not beg. At the end, the oldest man at the table closed his folder. We are prepared to invest $1.2 million. For several seconds, I forgot how to breathe. That amount could change everything. It could pay engineers, office space, legal protection, a proper home, maybe even repair what remained of my marriage. Then he added, in exchange for 51% of Axiora. The excitement disappeared. You want control. We want protection. You want ownership. We are offering you access, capital, and credibility. Victoria watched me carefully. I remembered Oren's warning. Desperate founders accept the first number that lets them breathe. I pushed the folder back across the table. No, one investor laughed softly. You have no revenue history. I have a platform you called capable of changing an industry. You also have no leverage. Then why did you move the meeting forward? Silence. Victoria finally leaned toward the table. What would you accept? 15% for $400,000, with a second round tied to performance milestones. The oldest man shook his head. Impossible. Then we are finished. My legs felt weak when I stood, but I kept my voice steady. Thank you for your time. I reached the elevator before Victoria caught up with me. You just walked away from more money than you have ever seen. Yes. Are you frightened? Terrified. Good. She pressed the call button. Fear means you understand the risk. Panic would have made you sign. The elevator doors opened. Will they call again? I asked. They might. And if they do not, then build leverage. That became my life. I did not receive a second call from Northbridge that week. Serea did not call either. Our separation became official quietly. She returned for the rest of her clothes while I was at work, left her key on the kitchen counter, and sent a brief message saying her lawyer would contact me. No apology, no explanation, only logistics. I read the message once and returned to Axiora. For the next 6 months, I built leverage. I convinced 3 small manufacturers to test the platform at reduced rates. The first trial failed when Axiora misread incomplete carrier data and redirected an urgent shipment through a warehouse already operating beyond capacity. The client lost 2 days. I refunded every dollar. Then I spent 48 hours rebuilding the data validation system. The second trial performed better. The third saved a medical equipment supplier nearly $70,000 by predicting a regional trucking shortage 6 days before it happened. That result became our first case study. I rented a tiny office above a closed furniture store and hired 2 engineers with money borrowed against my retirement account. One was brilliant and impatient. The other was careful and slow. They argued constantly. Together they made Axiora stronger. I still worked at HarborLink during the day. At night, I crossed the city to our office and stayed until sunrise. Sometimes I slept on the floor beneath my desk. Sometimes Oren brought breakfast without saying anything. One morning he found me staring at a notice from the bank. You are behind on rent, he said. I will catch up. With what? We are closing another client. You said that last month. I smiled bitterly. You sound like Serea. His expression softened. No, she wanted certainty before the work was finished. I am asking whether you can survive long enough to finish it. That question became more important than ambition. Success did not arrive in one dramatic moment. It came in fragments, a signed contract, a referral, an error corrected before it cost a client money, a month when payroll cleared with $12 remaining in the account. Then came the setbacks. One engineer left for a larger company. A competitor copied part of our interface. A prospective client used our free demonstration to negotiate a better deal with another provider. We lost a major contract after a server outage during a live test. For 2 weeks, I considered calling Northbridge and accepting whatever terms they offered. Instead, I called Victoria. I need advice, I said. Advice is expensive. I cannot afford expensive. Then ask a good question. How do I know whether persistence has become denial? She was silent for a moment. Are your results improving? Yes. Are customers returning? Most of them. Are the problems different from last year? I thought about it. Yes. Then you are not repeating failure. You are progressing through it. She ended the call before I could thank her. By the end of the first year, Axiora had 18 clients. By the end of the second, we had 114. HarborLink became our first national account after. Oren persuaded the board to review our performance data. The contract allowed me to leave. My job without abandoning the company that had taught me the industry. On my final day, Oren handed me the same kind of cheap coffee he had brought the morning he first saw. Axiora work. You were right, I said. About what? Someone tried very hard to buy it. He smiled. And? I am glad I said no. He raised his cup. So am I. Our growth accelerated after that. We opened offices in 3 cities, then 5. Axiora expanded into air freight, maritime shipping, and emergency supply management. The press occasionally requested interviews, but I avoided them. I had no interest in becoming a public symbol of success. I wanted the company to be known, not my face. That privacy allowed Serea to remain unaware of what Axiora had become. I heard pieces of her life through mutual acquaintances. She married Cassian 11 months after our divorce. Their wedding appeared in business magazines. A historic estate, imported flowers, 200 guests. The photographs showed exactly the life she had wanted. She wore a designer gown and smiled beside a man whose watch cost more than everything we had owned together. For a while, I hated those photographs. Then work became too demanding for hatred. Years later, Aviel told me the marriage was not what it appeared to be. Cassian monitored Serea's spending despite encouraging her to display wealth publicly. He chose where they traveled, who they entertained, which events she attended. He praised her beauty in public and corrected her opinions in private. When she received an offer to lead a new department, he persuaded her to decline because her schedule would interfere with his. He is not violent, Aviel said carefully, but everything in their life belongs to him, including the version of her people are allowed to see. I felt no satisfaction. Serea had hurt me, but I had once loved her. Part of me still remembered the woman who shared instant noodles with me during a power outage and danced barefoot in the kitchen. Because we could not afford to go anywhere, I hoped she found a way back to herself. I did not want a way back to us. By the third year, Axiora operated in 11 countries. Constant travel became a problem. Commercial schedules cost us entire days, and security concerns made certain routes difficult. My board recommended purchasing a private jet. I resisted for months. It sounded excessive. Then a delayed connection caused me to miss negotiations for a disaster response contract that could have delivered emergency medical supplies faster after floods. The missed opportunity changed my mind. The jet was not a trophy. It was time returned to the company. Even then, I rarely posted photographs or allowed publicity around it. To most people outside the industry, Elias Carter remained an unknown name. The invitation arrived on a quiet Tuesday afternoon. The Halcyon Aviation Foundation was hosting its annual charity gala at a private terminal. The event would fund transportation for children requiring specialized medical treatment across state lines. Axiora had recently donated routing software to the foundation. The director asked me to attend as the evening's final guest and announce a larger partnership. I nearly declined. Crowds made me uncomfortable, and public recognition still felt unnatural. Then I read the list of children already helped by the program. I accepted. My assistant, Nalia, entered my office the next morning holding the event file. "There is one complication," she said. "What complication?" "One of the gala's primary real estate sponsors is Road Development." I looked up. "Cassian's company?" "Yes." She hesitated. "Cassian and Serea Rowe are confirmed guests." For a moment, the office seemed smaller. I had imagined seeing Serea again many times during the first year after she left. In those fantasies, I always had the perfect sentence. Something cold. Something unforgettable. But 3 years had changed me. I no longer wanted revenge. I only wanted the past to remain where I had placed it. "We can cancel," Nalia said. "No. You do not owe anyone an appearance. This is not about them." I looked at the foundation's report again. Keep the schedule. That night, I stayed in my office after everyone left. The city glittered beyond the windows, but my attention remained on a photograph hidden inside the drawer. It showed Serea and me during our first winter together. Standing beside the unreliable sedan we had pushed through snow, I had kept it without understanding why. Perhaps healing was not the destruction of every memory. Perhaps it was the ability to touch one without bleeding. My phone displayed the gala itinerary. Arrival, 7:45. Partnership announcement, 8:30. Departure, 10:15. For the first time in years, a countdown reminded me of her. But this one felt different. I was not trying to save a marriage or prove that my dream deserved patience. I was preparing to represent hundreds of employees, trusted partners, and children whose families depended on the Foundation's aircraft. I returned the photograph to the drawer. Then I called Nalia. "Do not tell the organizers about my history with the Rose. You want no special arrangements?" "None." "What if she approaches you?" "I watch the city below. Then I will speak to her." "And if she apologizes?" I paused. "I will listen." The gala was 2 weeks away. Serea had no idea I would be there. She had no idea who owned the aircraft scheduled to land after sunset. And she had no idea that the man she believed would die, poor was, already flying toward the moment when both of us would. finally have to face what our choices had created. The Halcyon Aviation Foundation. Gala began beneath a sky the color of burnished copper. By 7 o'clock, the private terminal had transformed into something between a ballroom and a film premiere. Black cars moved through security one by one. Valets opened doors. Photographers called out names. Executives, actors, athletes, and donors crossed a carpet lined with white lights. Inside, a string quartet played near the glass wall overlooking the runway. Serea arrived beside Cassian at 7:12. She wore a silver dress that reflected every camera flash. Cassian wore the same controlled smile he used in magazine interviews, one hand resting lightly against her back as though presenting an acquisition. "Chin up," he murmured without looking at her. She adjusted her posture. A photographer asked them to turn slightly. Cassian smiled wider. Serea obeyed. To everyone watching, they looked perfect. Only Aviel, standing near the entrance, noticed that Serea's fingers tightened around her clutch whenever Cassian touched her. "You look beautiful," Aviel said after the photographs. "Thank you. You look tired." "I'm fine," Cassian answered for her. "She has been working too much." Serea glanced at him. "I thought you wanted me involved in the foundation campaign." "I wanted you visible," he said quietly. "That is different." Then he walked toward a group of investors. Aviel watched him leave. "You do not have to keep doing this." Serea's smile remained in place. "Doing what?" "Pretending you chose correctly." Serea looked toward the runway. "I chose stability." "Did you?" Before she could answer, the event director stepped onto the stage and welcomed the guests. The foundation's mission was simple: provide private medical transportation for children whose treatment required urgent travel. That year, donations had funded 87 flights. The director announced that a new technology partnership would soon double their reach. Applause filled the terminal. Serea listened only halfway. Her attention shifted when airport employees began moving toward the runway. Security officers checked the side entrance. Ground crew positioned a mobile staircase. Cassian returned carrying 2 glasses. Apparently, the final donor is arriving dramatically. "Who?" "No one will say." He handed her a glass. "Probably some celebrity who needs applause for writing a check." Outside, runway lights glowed against the darkening sky. A low sound rolled across the terminal. Every conversation weakened. A private jet descended through the evening haze, its landing lights bright enough to cast moving reflections across the glass. The aircraft touched down smoothly. Photographers turned toward the windows. Guests began whispering. Cassian studied the jet. "That is an Ardent V-12. Serea knew nothing about aircraft, but his tone told her it was expensive. "How much?" "Enough that whoever owns it does not ask." The jet taxied toward the terminal. Its engines slowed. The event director stepped outside with Victoria Hale, Orrin Maddox, and Nalia. Serea frowned. She recognized Victoria from business publications. Orrin meant nothing to her at first. Then memory moved through her. Cheap coffee. A logistics office. Elias mentioning a mentor who believed in Axiora. Her fingers went cold. The cabin door unlocked. Around her, the room became silent. The stairs unfolded. A flight attendant appeared, then moved aside. I stepped into the doorway. For one heartbeat, all I saw was light. Camera flashes, runway lamps, the golden reflection of sunset disappearing behind the terminal. Then I saw her. Serea stood beside Cassian, exactly where Nalia's seating file said she would be. Her face lost all color. "Elias?" She whispered my name, but the silence carried it farther than she intended. Cassian looked at her. "You know him?" She could not answer. I descended the stairs slowly, not for effect, but because my legs had suddenly remembered the apartment, the leaking ceiling, and the night she left. 3 years collapsed into 12 steps. At the bottom, Victoria shook my hand. "You made it." "Barely. Storm over Denver." Orrin embraced me, still arriving at the last minute. Some habits survive success. The photographers called my name after the director announced it. Elias Carter, founder and chief executive of Axiora Global. A ripple moved through the crowd. Cassian stared at me. He knew Axiora. Everyone in commercial development knew Axiora. His company had licensed our forecasting system through a regional partner 6 months earlier. His eyes moved from me to the aircraft. That is his jet? Serea asked softly. Cassian did not respond. The director guided me inside. Guests approached with congratulations, questions, and introductions. I answered politely while feeling Serea's gaze across the room. I had once imagined this moment as victory. It did not feel like victory. It felt like returning to a house after a fire and discovering the walls still smelled of smoke. The presentation began at 8:30. I stood on stage beside photographs of children who had traveled for surgery, cancer treatment, and transplant evaluations. This aircraft behind us is not the important one tonight, I said. The important aircraft are the ones carrying families who cannot afford to wait. The room quieted. I announced that Axiora would provide the foundation with scheduling technology, route prediction, and 5 years of operating support. Our partnership would expand the program into 9 additional states. The applause rose slowly, then became a standing ovation. I did not look towards Serea, not until I stepped down. She was waiting near a quiet corridor beside the conference rooms. Cassian was nowhere in sight. Elias. I stopped several feet away. Hello, Serea. For a moment, neither of us knew what language belonged between former spouses. You look different, she said. So do you. Her eyes lowered. I heard about Axiora, but I never knew that it was mine. She nodded. I searched for you once. There were almost no interviews. I preferred it that way. She glanced toward the runway. And the jet? It saves time. A sad laugh escaped her. You always hated wasting money. I still do. Silence settled between us. Then she said, I owe you an apology. I waited. Not because I wanted to punish her. Because apologies given too quickly are often designed to ease the speaker, not heal the listener. She continued. What I said that night was cruel. I was afraid, but fear does not excuse cruelty. No. I thought money would make me feel safe. Did it? Her eyes filled with tears. No. Behind us, applause sounded from another announcement. She looked toward the ballroom. Cassian gave me everything I said I wanted. The house, the travel, the clothes, but none of it belongs to me. Not really. I am sorry. She looked surprised. You are? I do not need you to suffer for me to heal. That broke something in her expression. She wiped beneath one eye. I used to tell myself I left because you were obsessed with Axiora, but the truth is, I wanted the reward without surviving the uncertainty. I said nothing. And when Cassian noticed me, I confused attention with respect. Did you love him? I thought I did. And me? Her voice became smaller. I loved you. I just loved the future I wanted more. The honesty hurt, but it no longer had the power to destroy me. She stepped closer. Did you build all this because of what I said? No. The answer came easily. At first, I worked harder because I was angry. But anger is terrible fuel. It burns hot and leaves nothing. I built Axiora because the work mattered, because people trusted me, and because I finally stopped measuring myself through your eyes. She nodded slowly. I deserved that. This is not punishment. Then what is it? Closure. The word stood between us. She looked toward the gala, where Cassian was watching from across the room. His expression was not jealous. It was calculating. He asked me whether I knew you, she said. When I told him you were my former husband, he wanted to know whether I could convince you to speak with his company. I almost smiled. That sounds like him. I told him no. For the first time that evening, there was strength in her voice. He said I was embarrassing him. What did you say? That being useful to him was not the same as being loved by him. Cassian approached before I could respond. His smile was polished, but his jaw was tight. Carter, impressive announcement. Thank you. We should discuss a direct partnership. Road development is expanding internationally. This is not the evening for business. Of course. His gaze shifted to Serea. We are leaving. No, she said. He blinked. What? I am staying. Serea. I said I am staying. Nearby conversations softened. Cassian noticed people watching and lowered his voice. Do not create a scene. You created one every time you made my choices for me. His face hardened. You would have nothing without me. Serea looked at him, then at the cameras, the donors, and the glittering room she had once believed represented freedom. That is what I used to think. She removed the diamond bracelet from her wrist and placed it in his hand. Not anymore. Cassian stared at the bracelet. Then he walked away without another word. Serea exhaled shakily. Was that because of me? I asked. No. She looked toward Aviel, who was waiting near the ballroom entrance. That was because I finally heard myself. I understood. Some people return to our lives so we can begin again with them. Others return so we can finally end what never ended properly. I hope you find what you were looking for, I said. She smiled through tears. I think I have to build it. That is usually how it works. Nalia approached to tell me the pilots were ready. Serea glanced toward the jet. So this is goodbye? It was goodbye 3 years ago. We just did not say it correctly. She nodded. Goodbye, Elias. Goodbye, Serea. I walked across the tarmac while the gala continued behind me. At the stairs, I looked back once. She was not watching the jet. She was walking toward Aviel alone, her shoulders straighter than when she arrived. Before boarding, I paused beside Oren. He looked toward Serea, then back at me. You okay? I considered the question. 3 years earlier, I would have measured the answer by whether she wanted me back. A year earlier, I might have measured it by whether she understood what she had lost. Now neither mattered. I am, I said. Oren smiled. Good. Then perhaps you are finally ready to enjoy some of what you built. I would not go that far. You bought a jet. The board bought a scheduling solution. He laughed. Nalia called from the stairs, reminding us that weather was moving east. Oren squeezed my shoulder before returning to the terminal. I watched him disappear through the glass doors, grateful for every person who had believed in me without demanding immediate proof. Success had many signatures on it. Mine was only the largest one people could see. Months later, I learned she left Cassian, returned to work, and accepted the leadership position she had once declined. I never contacted her. She never contacted me. There was no need. Axiora continued growing, but growth no longer felt like proof. The company funded emergency routes, hired people smarter than me, and solved problems I once drew on a cracked apartment wall. I kept the old wedding photograph, not from longing, from gratitude. It reminded me that becoming successful had not begun when the jet door opened. It began the night one door closed, and I chose not to close with it. People sometimes ask whether Serea regretted saying I would die poor. I think she did, but that was never the real ending. The real ending was that I stopped needing her regret, because wealth was not the aircraft, the company, or the number attached to my name. Wealth was finally knowing that no one who misunderstood my beginning had the power to write my ending.